So whenever we look to build out our ecosystem relationship capital and really tap into entrepreneurs, they come in way different like backgrounds and personalities and genders and, stories and it's ages as well, by the way. And it's amazing. My next guest / partner, Pam Bhardi. What's up, Pam?
What's going on, Rob?
How you doing?
I'm great.
Ultra successful. One of my teachers. We just sat privately, myself, Pam, Eddie, and Dave, and she was taking us through a whole real estate underdog, building different money streams and different partnerships. And I was just sitting there. She blew my mind. She's like, under 30 years old. Is that correct?
I just turned 30 November 1st.
Oh.
So I broke the 20s. Yes, I'm officially 30.
Okay. So, by the way, I'm November 2nd.
What?
That's so crazy. Yes.
Scorpio.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
So, anyway, in hanging with Pam, who I've known for about a year now, maybe a year and a half, we met out at Chris Crone's event in December 2020.
2020. Oh
right?
my God, yeah. It's been
unbelievable.
Oh my God, 2020.
Pam is a real estate guru, entrepreneur. We're gonna go through her journey right now, but what you're recently up to right now. If you want to start there first, and then we can kind of work backwards. Why don't you share with the folks what's going on in your world right now? Because it's totally amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here today, Rob. Honestly, it's truly an honor and a privilege. I have so much fun with incredible people like yourself and always learning, always grinding. But, in my world, I'm considered the real estate underdog, right? So
where could they check you out, by the way?
Oh, yeah. Instagram, LinkedIn, all over the place.
The real estate underdog?
Yeah, no, just Pamela Bhardi.
Bardhi.
Yep, Bardhi. IG is Pamela_Bhardi. And I'm also on TikTok and all that good stuff too. But basically what my passion really is helping people.
No doubt.
That's my number one thing.
No question.
But especially to build different streams of revenue. Like that's my core thing. Like the average millionaire, 7 different streams.
But you genuinely want to help them first before the money even gets. I mean, that's 100%. Like a big distinction for all these folks out there.
Yeah.
It's really about genuinely helping people understand who they are.
Right.
As you're rocking the Louis Vuitton. Genuinely. So you like to tap in. You've created this potential model. No one knows about it yet, but tying in the spiritual with the business, spiritual first, right?
Yes.
Amazing.
100%. I mean, there's so many places to go, Rob. You want to talk about where I'm in business or the
right
spiritual
now,
realm?
I want you to talk about right now what's happening in your world.
Yeah. So in my world, it's building the different streams of revenue, honestly, and seeing how that model works, like especially through real estate, because that's my expertise.
Yep.
So I walk people through how to flip, how to develop, how to look at commercial assets, residential, selling. So there's so many different avenues in real estate, and that's why I love it so much. And I like to help people where they're at. Right. So can
we play with that?
Of course.
She just said she wants to help people where they're at.
Right.
So in other words, you don't want to impose your will. Right. You find out where they are and meet them where they are. And then I'm sure at that point, that's when you create the pain for them, which then gives you leverage to really help serve their best needs.
Absolutely.
But only until you meet them where they are first.
Exactly.
I love that.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people feel disconnected and they look at individuals who are highly successful and they say, well, I could never be them. There's no way I could ever be at that level.
Yeah.
And then when you really break it down, it's like, if you can break through your things first, if you can help transform, set your foundation as a person, and then get the right resources and the right team around you, honest to God, there's nothing you can't do.
Yeah. Impressive.
Would you ever build a house on sand, Rob?
Nope.
You build that foundation first. So I always say, like, mind, body, and spirit, let's get that right.
Yep.
Break through.
Yep.
Get clear.
Yep.
Then from there, that's what I mean, meeting you where you're at. Let's see what blocks, what things you have going on right now.
Yep.
And let's shift to the next level.
Yep. And for all the folks that are listening right now, what I find truly amazing is I know Pam's journey, which goes back to, she came over to America at what age?
I was 5.
5 years old.
Yeah.
And, mom and dad, first generation immigrants.
First generation. Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
They didn't know how to speak English. We had no family here, no
Nor did
job
you.
security, nothing.
Yeah. So you went to school, not know how to speak in English. By the time you graduated, you owned your own restaurant.
2.
Yeah. And then you went to Harvard.
Yeah.
Is that crazy? Or what? Like she went to Harvard, right? Yeah. So her journey into what she just mentioned really started out as a student of her dad. Yeah. Who showed success through work ethic, right?
100%. But I will add that there was a cheerleader in there that
Your mom
inspired my dad.
Yes.
So like my dad, when he first came to the US, he was doing all kinds of like weird jobs, manual labor, because he couldn't speak English.
Yeah.
So he's like in roofing and this. And
he was
that.
6'7".
He's like 6'8". Yeah.
I wonder what kind of weird jobs he was doing.
So like he came, and eventually, because he couldn't speak English, he was doing things like he got into
In
the
Boston.
restaurant world. So he got into the restaurant world.
Yep.
And so his mentor, like, you know, the guy who owned it, he saw my dad working back of house, and he's cooking and all this stuff. And my dad became friends with him.
Yep.
And he told him, Sokol, look, can I just share something with you? Because they became friends, right?
Yep.
He could have kept him as an employee, not knowing anything.
Oh, I love
but
that.
he pulled my dad aside, and he said this to him. That changed my dad's life. This is why I say the cheerleaders play a huge role.
Yep.
Right? So he told him, you build wealth in America one of two ways.
Ownership.
A, you own real estate. B, you own your own business.
Yep.
It's like, I'm going to give you a down payment, go out and buy a business. Because I know you just got here a few years ago. There's no way you have the credit for real estate or the down payment. But give you a down payment, go out and buy a business, and then build your real estate and all that from there.
So you as a young child, how old were you at this point?
I was 10.
So from 5 to 10,
Yeah.
like the struggle was real. It's always real, right? All of a sudden your dad bought a business.
Yeah.
And did you start to notice things differently?
Absolutely. I mean, my dad, I never knew this until recently, because he was always like the superhero in my world. He still is. He's my Superman, right? But like he told me he used to go in the bathroom and like literally cry.
Oh, man.
Because he didn't know how he was going to make the rent and pay and like do all these things. He had so much like going on and so much on his shoulders.
Yeah.
And like, you know, when he got an opportunity to buy a business, it was like, wow, like this is what I came to the United States for. I dropped everything to come here. And so he opened that business. Like he actually took over an existing business. He bought an existing pizza shop actually in Boston. And I started working with him because I just wanted to see my dad.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because he'd be gone like 13 hours
Working
a day.
at the
Yeah. So that's where I started. And I was like, Dad, I just want to hang out with you. Like, let me just hang out with my dad. And so just started in the cashier route when I was like 10. And that's how it began.
And you learned the business.
Oh, yeah.
Like hands-on.
Yeah. By the time I was 18, I was running the show with him. He's like, because he always treated me like an employee.
Yeah.
He never treated me like, okay, that's my daughter.
Yeah.
You know, like he would always push me to the next level.
Yeah. And Pam, the thing about you that I genuinely love is you love entrepreneurs.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like there's a difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
right? So can you talk to the entrepreneur out there, the struggle, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, you at a young age, and I'm going to say, when I say young, I mean like graduating high school, you kind of knew what the next step was for you. But there is folks out there that maybe don't even realize they're an entrepreneur yet or don't know how to take that next step. What do you say to that person?
Absolutely. So it's funny because my life was not linear at all whatsoever. I went to college thinking I was going to go 4 years and work for somebody.
Really?
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know that. They think I like jumped into entrepreneurship. Wow. Yeah. I was going to work for someone. And then when I was 40 or something, I was going to like launch my own stuff or whatever. But I had this experience. I had an internship my junior year at Stonehill College, my undergrad.
I remember this.
And I literally, I kid you not, I did a whole spring internship with them. It was the place that I was going to work at when everything was done. It's events and marketing at one of the biggest sports arenas in Boston.
Yep.
And I go in for my grade at the end of the semester, and believe, like, I was working my tail off, Rob. Like, I was so upset when this happened. I walk in, my supervisor's like, "Oh, you get a A-." No, sorry, B-.
And you wanted the A+.
No, it was like B-. And I was like, I've been here for everything. But like, here's the thing. Like, a lot of red flags happened at that point in time in that world. Like I was in the corporate environment, and I myself was telling me, you're not supposed to be here, Pam. And like all these things. And I'm like ignoring it because I'm like, no. I'm like, my route is I'm going to work for someone.
So you weren't listening to your inner voice.
Not at that time.
Got it.
Yeah, I wasn't. And I got that B-. And I remember and she told me, and I said, why? She said, you were too ambitious.
Too ambitious.
That was her response. Wow. She was like, every time I gave you something, you know, you would.
That's what colleges teach, by the way. That represents all the colleges out there.
I was like,
you baby boomer Nikes, no income college educated kids living in the basement. Nike, Nike, no income college educated, right? Living in the basement. Baby boomers are ruining the economy. Go ahead, including all the professors out there. You heard it here. Don't hate, participate. I'm just saying, it's the truth. I know, I get it.
It's the truth, and there's a whole wave of, you know, everyone
She
wanting
said you
equity.
were too ambitious?
She said I was too ambitious, and I remember I walked out of that room, and I was so livid, and then I walked past the threshold before I was going outside, and like something came over, and it was like, this is great.
Yeah.
She just changed my entire life.
Yeah.
And I called my parents, and I was like, hey mom, hey dad, I'm not working for anybody when I graduate college, okay? This is going into my senior year of college. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm not working for anybody. My parents were like, oh my God, lost their mind, and I was like, no. And then that's when I started formulating. The idea came that summer for my first restaurant. And then I got a partnership opportunity with a gentleman that I partnered with in the past.
During your senior year?
During my senior year. So by the time I graduated, by the time I was 21, I had 2 restaurants.
Wow. So you actually had the first restaurant while you were a senior?
Yeah.
Or you finished and then got 2 of them at the same time?
I was working on both of them
at
the same time.
Okay.
One of them opened like as soon as I finished my senior year, which was crazy.
Wow.
Like I was doing Cape Week and we were doing like all kinds of crazy stuff in the Cape with
sounds
anyone
like a
from
Boston
Stone.
thing.
It was wild. It was a wild time down there.
I believe
Well, like
it.
basically all the seniors get like a whole week down there before graduation and it gets wild. And I was like back and forth to my restaurant.
I remember
crazy.
I'm not going to say senior year, but my 4th year of college. I never graduated college. I did get 67 credits and I had a 1.65 GPA. There was a time in my life when I don't drink anymore, but there was a time when I did drink, and I was really good at intramural basketball. I led the fraternity to an undefeated season after I failed off the college team my sophomore year. So I remember Cape Week, except in Vermont, where we had it in Vermont, and for me it lasted like 4 years.
It wasn't a week, huh?
No, it was 4 years. But it really set the tone for my entrepreneurial path afterwards. No doubt about it. I learned a lot.
I love that. But you got to go through those
Yeah.
moments. Like, for example, if I was told that I was too ambitious, I would have never gone for entrepreneurship.
Listen, it was the last night of pledging for my fraternity. I was already a brother.
Yeah.
So we're bringing on new kids, and I took mushrooms that night. So while I was on the mountain of Vermont, I realized what the universe was all about. It was like in 1 second I understood everything, and then like I fell into the river, and then like a second later it was gone. But that was my experience, and that led me on my entrepreneurial path. I just didn't realize it for another 10 years.
But that's the thing. It's like you inadvertently get put into these things, and it's like when you trust your intuition, and this is for all the entrepreneurs that are out there that are like, I don't know, I just don't know. Like, listen to your intuition. It will never lie to you. Honest to God. Like, that is the best way to do it. And just really ask yourself the question. Sometimes we don't take the time to reflect.
Yes.
And to really sit down and be like, does this serve me? Does this not serve me? What do I want to do? What do I not want to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's pretty simple. Once you lay it down, you can get really clear.
Yep.
And you can go out there and get it.
Beautiful point. It's funny because it's whenever I'm in the place of frustration or indecision, I'll sit down and I'll ask what we call empowering questions, right? Yes. And our brain is like Google. Like if we say, hey, how come this keeps happening to me? Our brain's going to show us throughout our life history all the things that didn't work out in our favor because we said, why is this happening to me? Versus what can I learn from this? How can I grow? And I'll use the business version of this. How can we create daily revenues and income while at the same time empowering the team to spread the message of education?
Right.
Once you start asking that question, different things start coming to you, right?
100%.
So to your point, amazing. It's to get clarity, ask the right question, because no matter what, your brain's always working and it's always asking a question. So it's important to stay ahead of that and know what those questions look like. Especially that's where you could control your not only subconscious to your conscious to your manifestation of what's in front of you now, but it really comes down to the questions that you ask yourself. Awesome.
100%.
Thank you for that access.
No, thank you so much. And one of my favorite quotes ever that I've heard.
A romance without a finance is a nuisance.
That is a good one.
Big Daddy Kane said that in 1989.
I love that.
He did. I'm not making it up. Go check it out.
Look, my favorite one is Tony Robbins.
Oh, he's the best.
Business is a spiritual game.
Absolutely.
My dad pulled me aside after that night after I called him and I said, I called my mom. She freaked out. Okay. Then I called my dad and my dad's like, okay, let's have a seat. I'm like, okay, Dad, what have you got for me? Because he's always mentored me. So I always say I went from delivering pizzas to a 9-figure real estate career because that's really my trajectory. But my dad we used to do pizza deliveries together and we used to jam out and he would always mentor me and lecture me with things in life. Right. And he said to me that night when I told him I wanted to get into business, he's like, I want you to remember one thing about business. Have an extremely big heart. If you don't have an extremely big heart,
I love that.
He's like, Pam, I don't care what industry you're in. Just make sure you're taking care of people.
Yeah, it's true.
And he's like, the
It's a
bigger
great
heart that
responsibility.
you have,
Yep.
the more successful you will be.
No
So if
question.
you're prepared to have a big heart in business,
Yep.
you're going to crush it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, and I have faith in you.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was my conversation with my
It's
dad.
amazing. Amazing.
And it's the
Amazing
truth.
mentor. So college is done. There's 2 restaurants.
Yep.
You're not 30 yet. You're 21 to, let's say, 25.
Yeah.
I had the good fortune of meeting you when you were 28, 29.
Yeah.
So what happened? I mean, there's so many different things that you just hit me, Dave, and Eddie with. Like what happened over your main passion, and this is important. The main passion was real estate, right? She understands the game of real estate. She understands owning a restaurant. The things that she's up to right now, which we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes, is like just the constant. It's like a jet plane where there's no rear view mirrors. You just keep moving forward, right,
Yep.
nonstop. Yep. What happened between restaurants and where you are today?
Yeah. So this is a funny story. So I used to have these guys that came into my restaurants. And like I would see them, mostly at my downtown one. And, I honestly thought they were drug dealers. Honestly, because they were like always souped up, always took weekends off, did whatever the hell they wanted to do.
Yep.
And like I was like, what do these guys do?
Yep.
They're like the men in black. They're like, oh, we just came from golfing. Oh, we're gonna go away for the weekend. We're going down the Cape. We're doing that. And I'm like, how the hell do you have time to do this? Meanwhile, I'm this kid who has 2 restaurants going. I'm like working 14 to 16-hour weeks. And because I was in the restaurant world, my parents, I love them to death, but they were in operator mode because as an immigrant coming here, all you learn is like physical hard work is a manifestation of success.
Can you share operator versus owner? Because that's important.
Yeah.
You just throw that out there. That was good.
Yeah. So owner versus operator. So owner means that you own part of a business or all of it, but you're not investing all of your time in it. You have other people that run it for you.
Mm.
Operator is what most small businesses are, which is like your business is your job. It's what you do day in and day out. And owners own their time.
Yep.
Operators do
Well
not.
said. Awesome.
So that's kind of the biggest distinction.
Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
That was great.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So Men in Black.
Yeah.
You wonder what they're doing.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, what do you guys do? Like, and they're like, oh, we're real estate developers. I'm like, okay, that's cool. What does that like? What do you guys like? What does that mean? And they're explaining I'm making your money work for you and doing all these things. And I'm like, that's possible? Like, that's really cool. And then I started noticing, I'm like, you know what? All the people in real estate that I know have like the nicest houses. They can do whatever they want. They travel all the time. And I'm like, there's something to this game.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? And this was around 2013 where like a lot was happening, like
But
fix
it
or
didn't
flip.
take off yet. Yeah.
Yeah, like flip or flop and all these different things came on. And so I was like, I want to learn how to flip houses. Like that's all I wanted to do. Went to every seminar, took every course, and then eventually ended up hiring a coach in my market.
See that? So can we stop for a second? Because I think that's amazing. Thanks, Danny. Real estate. I mean, I'm sorry, multiple restaurant owner.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes, financially, you were crushing it.
Yeah.
Right? You were doing well.
Well, it was okay because it was still in the startup. You know what I mean? Like we invested so much to get them going.
You weren't poor.
Yeah.
You
no,
were,
still making yeah. But
so,
with a time sacrifice, like 14,
major
16
time.
Yeah.
You realized that's not the path that you wanted to be on.
Mm-hmm.
You saw these guys; they seemed to have it together. You began to ask questions, but that wasn't good enough. You began to go to get courses and study the game.
Yeah.
And then that took you on your journey of what happened next.
Yeah. So basically I hired a coach and then bought my first flip, made almost 100K on it. And I was like, okay. Because the thing is, I was looking at real estate as just adding a different stream of revenue for myself while I had my restaurants. But then I fell in love with it. Then I ended up getting my real estate license because I'm like, well, I'm transacting a lot. I'm flipping, so I'm just going to get my real estate license. Then people were like, hey, Pam, can you help me buy? Can you help me sell? And I'm like, okay, yeah, like cool. Like more than happy to help. And then got headhunted by a commercial real estate firm. Okay. So then I learned the commercial game at a very high level.
And that's way different. For all your earners over over $1 million, $2 million, unless you're going to buy a jet plane like Chris did, I think one of the major plays would be commercial real estate to get that 100%. To maximize that write-off. I'm not an accountant, by the way. Just, these are some of the things that you might want to think about. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Absolutely. And so it led me on my journey to basically shifting completely into real estate and basically selling and leasing my restaurants off because it just didn't, you know what I mean? Like real estate took over my life and I just didn't have time for anything else. And then I was just crushing it in development and construction. Yeah. And then brokerage was added into the mix too.
So just so we're on the same page, you're buying real estate, but you're also part of the development and you're also part of the construction company.
Yeah. So
So
basically,
you
I had
own
my
a construction company while you're buying the real estate.
Yes.
And you have a license.
Yes. So basically what I started with, I was like, oh, well, let's create this trifecta
Listen.
of awesomeness. So I had my development company, and then I ended up getting my
All
general
under the
contractor.
age of 30, by the way. Go ahead.
Then I got my my GC license, so my general contractor's license. So I got unrestricted construction supervisor license in Massachusetts, which means I can build like a skyscraper if I wanted to. But I needed those years of experience, so I had the. Then I had.
But how many people know that and don't do what you just did? That actually know the real estate game and didn't take that extra step?
Because my mind was always about building different streams of revenue. And also, how can you build complementary businesses that feed each other?
Yeah.
Right? So the development company and the construction company. So because I was a licensed GC, I could have the construction company. So it's Moshe Development, Moshe Construction, and then the Moshe Group. When I got my broker's license, I created the Moshe Group, which was my brokerage. And then like crushed it with all three of them. They all bounce off each other.
Amazing.
You know?
Amazing.
And so I was heavy in development and construction literally up until this year. I closed out my projects.
Yep.
You know?
And did COVID affect you?
No.
Really?
Luckily, no. For me, it was like high speed.
Yeah.
Let's keep grooving.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people were like, Pam, how'd you find the best deals?
So Pam, what's the name of your podcast?
Underdog.
And that's, I remember I was one of your first.
Yes.
When we were out in Utah, we did your podcast out there, which was awesome.
Yeah.
You want to share a little bit about what your podcast is, and maybe some people that are going to be on there in the future that these good folks, whoever's listening, maybe want to jump in on that.
For sure. So it's interesting. So I was heavy in the development and construction world, and then eventually, when I was about 26, like I hit my max of like doing 9 figures in real estate deals.
Yep.
So selling, developing, acquiring, different things like that. And a little voice inside my head was like, hey, Pam, you're doing great for yourself. What are you doing for the world?
No, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Where does that voice come from for you?
It was like something I just kept hearing, and it was louder and louder and louder. And I was like hearing it a little bit, and it's like, Pam, you're doing great in development. It's like you're super successful. Because I made it to Forbes and Time magazine by 27.
Yep.
And I was financially free by that point. And I was just like, caking it. I was like, I just gonna rinse and repeat all this development and construction stuff, which was great for me.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really impacting anyone.
Yeah.
Right. So then that's when the podcast idea popped up, because I was like, a lot of people would ask me, Pam, how did you get to where you're at?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, honestly, it took a whole village.
Wow.
It took a whole village to make me who I am. Yes, I hustled, but if it wasn't for my mentors, my friends, people who took the time out of their day to help me.
Yep.
Even when I went through my darkest moments in entrepreneurship, especially in the beginning, first 1 to 3 years is brutal, right?
This was after college, right?
Yeah, after college. Yeah, as I was getting into real estate and transitioning with the restaurants and all of this stuff, because I still was going through, there was Harvard Business School, then Babson before that.
Yep.
As I'm doing the restaurants plus the real estate, my life was crazy. And so, and then I came up with the concept of the underdog. I'm like, first off, that's my identity. Like, that's my parents, right? Like, when I think about them, nothing's hard anymore.
Yep.
For a family that had a newborn son, 6 months old, and a 5-year-old, with no job security, didn't know how to speak English, family here, and barely any money, and came here and made it, I have no excuse.
Yeah, I love that.
No excuse, So I literally was like, okay, I want to showcase stories of individuals from all walks of life. And I want to hear who they are, where they've been, where they're going.
And this was part of your mission to give back to the world, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it just started as a passion project.
Yeah. Now
that launched in 2020, and now we're in 2022. We're in 65 plus countries streamed in.
Wow.
Top 1.5% of podcasts in the world. And literally, I interviewed Kevin Harrington, original shark from Shark Tank, the founder of Reebok, Joe Foster.
You recently interviewed Kevin, right?
Yeah. And it's insanity.
Did that hit? Did that hit yet, or is it?
No, it's coming out soon.
Okay,
but
so they should be on the lookout for that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And way more incredible people.
Yeah, not just him. Yeah, exactly.
And just like stories that you hear and like.
But don't you think it's crazy that you got to interview Kevin Harrington?
I still sit there and I'm like,
or that you do videos with Chris Crone.
Like literally, that's the thing. Is
how did that happen? Like, did you know that 5 years ago?
No, God, no. I started the podcast as just a little element of passion of what I wanted to do. And then all of a sudden it led me into the space of like, Pam, you should be coaching and speaking. And it opened up this whole other world for me. And I'm like, okay, I really want to go all in on this because I want to impact people. I want to help them create different streams of revenue. Love it. Meet them where they're at and help them break through whatever they've got going on and just take it to the next level.
So Pam, let me ask you a question, because you have a passion, not just for women, men and women, right? But let's talk about women immigrants,
Yeah.
for a second.
Yep.
And this could apply to anybody, this next piece, because this is really important. One of Pam's passions and her entrepreneurial success steps is that she is stepping into the EXP world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And in stepping into that world, and anyone out there that either has a real estate license and or is an entrepreneur looking to step into a space with a proven winner that can really coach, mentor, and drive you. Pam, if you don't mind, for anyone that's listening, talk a little bit about what that looks like for them and why they should maybe have a conversation with you offline privately.
Absolutely. So EXP, I call it the democratization of real estate.
Wow, that sounds really technical. I'm from Bayonne.
I love it. Well, it's the opportunity for you to become a shareholder in a real estate brokerage.
Okay.
That's international.
Now, the other real estate brokerages don't do that?
No.
Like Keller Williams, or I'm not knocking it, I'm just asking.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
No, so, because the thing is this, there's two ways to make money in EXP, right? Because it's a traditional brokerage at the end of the day, except they minus off all the royalty fees and like all of the fluff.
The pimp fees?
The pimp fees.
Gotcha.
Exactly. Marketing fees and all that stuff. And so what it looks like.
The Iceberg Slim. You know Iceberg? Look him up. He's the greatest pimp of all time. Of the Iceberg Slim fees?
I've heard that, but
Iceberg Slim. Yeah, he changed the game.
Really?
Yes, I swear he did.
I'm going to look him up after this interview, without a doubt.
He used to wear the fish tank heels with the fedora hat.
Hell yeah.
God,
Sounds
I'm
like
sorry.
my kind of guy.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
So no, you're good. But basically, it's EXP. I consider it that, right? Like you have the opportunity to be a shareholder of a brokerage.
That's cool.
No other brokerage is doing this, which
Wow.
I love because I'm all about entrepreneurs and I'm all about building brands.
Yes, you are.
It's like, why would I have interest in wanting to bring somebody with me when they don't have equity or ownership?
Yep.
Look at the Great Resignation right now. Nobody cares. People care about purpose.
Yep.
And they care about being part of something
Bigger. Absolutely.
Right? And that's
Yep.
exactly what EXP is. You maintain your own identity, but you're backed by an insane infrastructure.
Wow.
So there's two ways to make money in it, right? Like you have the traditional agency, which is like 80-20 split for my agents who are listening,
Yep.
right? With a cap of 16,000. And then you have $85 a month to access like the CRM and like all of the technical platforms that are insanely awesome.
So
right?
so if there's an insurance agent right now listening, right, and you're sharing all this, why should they kind of call you offline so they can get a clearer picture of what you're talking about? Because right now you're talking above my head, because that's not my thing.
Ask me. I'm
in the finance. And by the way, Parker or Dave, anybody, is there any questions that anybody has? If there is, let us know. We'll answer any questions. But with that being said, I guess my question is, why would they leave their current place to do something like this?
Yeah.
Right? Like what's the I know there's more money and they could profit share.
Right.
But how do they overcome the fear of their comfortability of being in the game where they're used to giving the house away to be able to own the house now?
Own the house. Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to everyone is really uncomfortable with change.
Yep.
Right. And this is an opportunity for you, to make more. Because on the agency fees, like it's extremely minimal. It's like $85 a month and that's it. Like $150 startup fee.
And it's crazier on the other side.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
I mean, with the agency, so like on the agency side of EXP, you have the opportunity, you pay less fees. Yeah. And you pay less out. So you keep more money in your pocket and you also have stock options.
Oh, you get stock.
Yeah, after you hit that cap of 16,000. So like say you pay out for the year 16,000 max and then you do more deals throughout the year. You can keep 100% of your commission, which no other brokerage is doing. Okay. Or you can turn it into stock at a 10% discount.
Got it.
What company out there right now is offering marketing platforms, all of these things and like at a minimal fee and puts more money in your pocket? That's a huge reason for a lot of people.
And these folks work out of their house or do they work?
Yeah, it's virtual.
Okay.
Yeah, so
wow.
EXP's had its own metaverse since 2009.
So usually someone that's been in the business, this is good for, or is it good for anybody?
It's really good for especially those who've been in the business for a while because it creates the whole infrastructure that you have. They've already built their brand. Okay. But even for someone who's starting off new, like I train everybody on my team how to build their brand. Yeah. So they'll go out there and be a monster if they're with me. Yeah. Because I'll train them exactly what to do. Got it. Or for an insurance agent, like you were saying, who's like, I have all these real estate contacts. Yeah. Get your real estate license and make money off referrals. Yeah. There's also a revenue share model in EXP, which is the second component of it, where you literally have broker powers. In normal circumstances, it takes you like 4 to 5 years to get your broker's license.
Wow.
And then a whole bunch of barriers to entry with that. Because with the bigger firms, you have to pay franchise fees, you have to pay all this crap.
Put your time in.
And you're stuck within a state.
Yeah.
With EXP, it's like you join, you can recruit anywhere.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing
Yeah.
is, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Pam just turned decades into days. Basically, what she's sharing with everybody out there is that here's the map. If you're in the business, I just shortened out the distance from where you are and where you want to go. I just got rid of, the back roads and the dirt roads and the stop signs, and I put you on the highway. And once again, entrepreneur, somebody that's out there looking to change, have an impact on their family generation and change the game.
Yeah.
Pam has been an entrepreneur when it came to real estate, when it came to the restaurants, commercial real estate as well. Yeah. And now she's stepping in with multiple streams of income. She has her own podcast, which is generating coaching clients, courses as well that you have access to. And now she's in the game of EXP, which, by the way, in the real estate game, that is a slow and steady tiger that's climbing every single day. Everybody's starting to hear about it more and more. Right. Wow. I kind of feel like there was tremendous value that was added today. Thank you for sharing your experience, strength, and hope. Is there anything that you want to share, number one? Yeah. And number two, where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
Yeah. So one thing I'd love to share is, when you're thinking about life transitions, and this is for anyone out there, right? Because a lot of people right now are questioning purpose, right? And so that's one of the reasons why I merged with one of my best friends, and I call her my soul sister, Jasenia Nozalilo. Yep. So with her, we're intertwining the business and spiritual realms.
Wow.
And so we will be doing workshops in the future for finding your purpose and finding your soul purpose and all of that, spiritual coaching and the business coaching.
So you feel if they find their soul, the business becomes that much better.
100%.
Got it.
Wherever it is that they want to go, right? Getting clear with yourself. But within all of these transitions, what I'd like to say is regret is far worse than fear. Like one of my biggest motivators, and that's my biggest quote, honestly, like, do you want to be on your deathbed and say, I wish I did this? I wish I did that. It's like, if you're scared of something right now, to me, I think about something that I'm starting and I get scared, right? Like going in from development. So it was scary going from restaurants to development. Now from development and construction into coaching and speaking and building teams out. That was scary to me too, because I'm like, I'm in a totally different realm. But then I'm like, fast forward to if I'm on my deathbed one day and be like, dang it, I wish I did that. Like, to me, that scares the life out of me. Like, I'm like, I would be, oh my God. So imagine that when you're making a life decision, just say, remember to yourself, regret is far worse than fear. Just go for it. Like, who cares? Like I always say, and I always say this too. Like, would you dive off a diving board into a pool?
Yeah. I mean, how deep is the water?
Why? So why would you jump?
Because it's fun.
But that's because you're going to rise back up, right?
Yeah.
The universe will always lift you back up.
So your go-to when fear creeps in, I love that. Listen, guys, gals. Yeah. When you're scared, what you do, or when you're feeling fear, what you do is you basically, go to the end and picture yourself on your deathbed. Yeah. And wanting to make sure that when you do shuffle off this mortal coil, that's Shakespeare's way of saying die, that you'll have no regrets. I love that. Yeah, well, I never heard that before. It's awesome.
Well, Sean Callagy
when he
mentioned this.
When he meets, he always talks about
when you meet your maker, what are you gonna say?
Yeah, you want to make sure you live your life to the fullest.
What have you done with the gifts that I brought you here on earth?
Yes, that's what he says. Yep.
Right.
Amazing.
And that's almost a very similar thing. Is like you want to be like, I gave it every damn thing I got.
Wow.
Right.
Amazing.
So it's the same thing with me. Regret is far worse than fear. Like, just go for it. Yeah. What's the worst that's gonna happen? Okay, it didn't go so well, but it led you a different route.
Yep. Awesome.
Well,
thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
One last time for anyone that jumped on, how could anybody reach you, Pam?
Yeah, so I'm all over the place. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, all the good stuff. Pamela Bhardi, please reach out to me. Always happy. Like, DM me, send me a message. Like, I'd love to chat with all of you, honestly. Any questions, anything you've got, it'd be awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for checking in, everybody. And Pam, thanks for coming in. I really appreciate it. I've had the good fortune of spending a couple of different type of interviews like this with her before, and every single time she starts off at a higher place than where she left off. So I always feel like I'm being the student in this situation, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And, Pam, I can't thank you enough for being part of the podcast. Thank you so much. Your story is incredible.
Thank you, Rob. It's such an honor.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.